Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Big Boss Show. It's a new show where we come to you every week with somebody that may have not always been a big boss, but shares his or her perspective that we can learn from. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest. We got Wayne Mullins, founder of Ugly Mug Marketing. He's a husband, a father of four, founder, CEO, entrepreneur, and author. Described as a generous soul, a risk taker, and out of the box, against the grain thinker and leader. Over the past 20 years, Wayne Mullins has scaled multiple companies and helped hundreds of entrepreneurs do the same with their companies. Wayne influences more than 250,000 entrepreneurs annually through his blog, books, and training programs, and has personally worked with clients in over 100 industries from all corners of the globe. Wayne, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about how you got started in marketing.
So my background in marketing actually started probably about 25 years ago, something like that. And what happened was I'd left a sales job and decided to start my own company. And it was through the course of growing that company over a 3-year period. I took that company from startup to 3 years later, sold that company. And I started having a lot of people come ask me, our clients of the company, come ask me, how were we scaling? How were we growing? What were we doing? And the answer was we were doing a lot of marketing. And so those conversations kind of led into what eventually would become Ugly Mug Marketing as it is today. But marketing for me started as a lot of trial and error. Started with very little budget. In other words, didn't have hardly any marketing budget whatsoever. So I had to be very creative with our marketing, and then began developing frameworks and systems around what was working well for us and teaching others how to do the same.
Awesome. So what company was that?
That was actually a lawn and landscape company.
Okay, sweet. And what was your like your revenue during that when you sold it?
We were up to just under $500,000.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I know there's a lot of business owners and small businesses that are out there and they don't really know what how to do their marketing. Are you really focused on those kind of people, like the mom and pop shops, or are you mainly just working with like bigger clients?
The answer is actually a little bit of everything. We've worked with publicly traded companies. We've worked with national, international companies, and we work with the coffee shop literally across the street, right out the window from where I'm sitting. And at the end of the day, the marketing fundamentals don't change. It doesn't matter if you're doing it for a publicly traded company or if you're doing it for the coffee shop across the street. And the reason that is true is because at the end of the day, marketing really comes down to two things. It just comes down to psychology and to math. And the reason for that is because marketing is about persuasion. It's about convincing people to trust you, to like you, to know about your products or services, and portraying the value that your product or service can bring to them. And so human nature is human nature, right? It doesn't change regardless of the size of the business, regardless of the type of industry. Marketing, the fundamentals remain the same throughout.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people too they get to that 6 figures, but they just don't know how to break to 7 figures. And I don't know. I know marketing plays a big part in that. So what do you think is coming up next? Like, what's the next silver bullet in marketing?
Yeah, I think I don't know if this is true. This is maybe my hope, but I hope the next silver bullet or magic bullet, if you will be a return to the fundamentals. What I think we're starting to see, and what business owners, entrepreneurs are starting to realize, is that there's a new guru born every day, right? There's a new fad. There's a new social media platform. There's something new every single day. And here's what's so interesting, kind of from my outside observation of this, is that all gurus, all these fads, platforms, you name it, originally they were all built on certain foundations. But over time, what happens is Guru A bases his thing, right? Whatever the thing that they're pitching is, they base it on some foundation. Well, then Guru B sees what Guru A is doing, so they take it and they base what they're going to do off of Guru A. And when they do that, they slowly begin diluting the true foundations that good marketing is built on. And so what has happened over the last decade, maybe 2 decades, is this, that we've lost focus on the foundations. And as a result, where we've ended up as entrepreneurs and business owners, we've ended up with ineffective, expensive, and frustrating marketing. And anyone who does marketing will tell you those things are often true. And the reason is this: we've come so far from the foundations, from the fundamentals, that now we're building things on little tiny slithers of what used to be solid foundations. And we live in a world of cause and effect. And when you build your campaigns, you base all of your marketing on things that aren't proven, on fads. Like, the effects, the results of those things are going to reveal the calls, right? They're going to reveal what you built your marketing system on.
So what is good marketing to you?
Yeah, good marketing is simply this. Good marketing is, number one, understanding there are two parts to marketing. As marketers, we tend to believe that our job is to attract customers, get them to pull out their wallet and hand us money. The problem with that is we forget there's this whole other side of the equation, which is once we convert somebody, in other words, once they pull out their wallet and hand us money, we now have the opportunity, if we are smart marketers, to take those people and turn them into evangelists for our brands or for our product or service. And so good marketing is, number one, understanding that marketing is about so much more than just attracting new people and getting them to pull out their wallet and hand you money. It's about taking those people and converting them into evangelists for your brand. So that's number one, good marketing. Number two, good marketing is this: good marketing is also based on math. At the end of the day, every dollar you spend on marketing should bring back more than $1 to you. If it doesn't, it's bad marketing.
I love it. I love it. So how do you think that organizations these days can bring in like a good culture?
Yeah, great question. First of all, I think that culture has been misdefined by so many. We tend to think of, when general public thinks of culture, they think of ping pong tables, they think of snack bars, they think of nap pods, or all these free laundry service, free cafeteria, all these things that we see the big tech companies doing. We think that makes a cool or a great culture. But the reality is, those are byproducts of the culture that is in place. So culture actually comes from the same Latin word as to cultivate. And to cultivate means you have to work at it. You have to loosen the soil. You have to continually add nutrients into the soil. It's not a one and done process. And so for culture to be good, I can't define what that looks like for each organization, because each organization is unique, it's different, and they have different goals and purpose. For us, a good culture looks like this: it's self-accountable. In other words, it's not top down trying to hold everyone accountable to certain things. It's self-accountable. And then number two, it's just high performance. In other words, the culture is achieving things. It's a culture where they want to exceed expectations, not just merely meet expectations. So culture, I believe right now, in the world that we live in this kind of what some are calling the great resignation, culture is the ultimate strategy. It's the ultimate point of leverage. If you have a great culture, as I think it was Peter Drucker who said, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Okay, great. So what about the the exec, like someone like a CEO, like who's gonna be there to help keep them accountable?
Yeah, great question. I think, so in our organization, the way it happens, I mean, there's lots of moving parts and pieces, but every single week we have an all hands on team meeting. And right over here to the side of me, there's a big screen TV, and everyone's goals and commitments for the week get put up on that screen. And my goals as well. And so those goals get either shaded green, orange, or red. So in other words, did you complete it? Is it partially completed, or did you not complete it? And I put my goals up there as well. And the team holds me accountable. Even though I'm technically, the quote unquote CEO, the founder of the company, I am held accountable by my team, and they are held accountable by their peers. And so I think that's a big part of culture, though, right? In most instances, I think if we're not careful as entrepreneurs, we tend to believe that we're somehow above, right? And we don't have to be held accountable. But that is going to reflect down throughout your culture, right? Because everything we do as leaders, it's kind of like raising kids. So I have 4 kids. Um, they learn far more from watching and observing what we do as parents than from the things we tell them. And the same is true in the workplace, right? I could sit up here all day or stand up here all day and talk about how, we should be self accountable. We should be holding each other accountable as peers. And, I don't want to have to do it from the top. But yet, if I'm unwilling to do the same thing, in other words, if I'm unwilling to have my peers around me hold me accountable, what is that actually communicating to the team?
Okay. Okay. Great. I really like that. So, I'm coming to you with this. We're in 2022. A lot of people still don't have websites for their business. Do you think that's important, like having a website for your company?
It's a trick question you're asking me, because one of the things we do is sell websites. But here's the way I would answer that is this: that um, a website matters a lot if it's part of your marketing strategy. A website doesn't matter at all if it's not an intentional part of your marketing strategy. And what I mean by that is this: I would rather you not have a website than to have a website and have it just sit there and do nothing, right? So, in other words, if the website isn't an integral part of your marketing strategy, whether that's on the early stages of people finding out about you and then understanding how the website's going to then lead them through other phases or other stages in your sales process, whatever that may be, it's got to be a part of your marketing. If not, it does no good for you to have the website that just sits there and then you're frustrated because you're not happy with the results it's producing for you. So the answer is yes, but let's make it part of your marketing strategy. Let's not treat it as this thing that sits out there by itself.
Okay. So, to those people that maybe they're doing a little bit of marketing, but it's not working for them, what would you say to them, and how do they fix it?
Sure. So again, I believe that everything is cause and effect, right? So if the results that you're getting, you're not happy with, we need to go back to the cause. What are the inputs that are producing those outputs? And a couple of things come to mind. Number one is that most people take what I would call this approach, where the best analogy I can think of is this: let's imagine that you're going on a picnic, and so you want to prepare an amazing meal for this picnic that you want to bring with you. And so what you do is you go to your pantry or cupboard and you reach in there and you say, "Oh, I love this particular cracker, so I'm gonna dump some of these crackers in my picnic basket." And then you go over to the fridge and you're like, "Oh, I really like this cheese, so I'm gonna dump some of that cheese in this picnic basket." And then maybe on the way you stop by a store and you pick up some fresh fruit or fresh vegetables, whatever it may be, and you dump them all in your picnic basket. Now, if you shake up your picnic basket on your way to your picnic and you get there, what are you going to have inside of it? Right? It's going to be messy. It's going to be all these things just kind of meshed together. But here's the interesting thing: along the way, you picked the very best things to put in your picnic basket, right? You picked your favorite crackers, you picked your favorite cheese, you picked your favorite whatever from the stores. That is the exact same thing that we do often as marketers. We look around and we see guru over here doing this thing. So we grab it and say, "Oh, that's cool. Let me throw that in my marketing mix." We throw it in the bag. And then maybe we see competitor over here doing this thing. And we're like, "Oh, that's really cool. They're getting good results from that. Let's throw that in the bag." And then we shake it up, right? And we're frustrated because we have all these supposed great things that other people are doing, and yet it's producing nothing for us. And so the foundation of great marketing has to start with the framework that you're building upon. It can't start by grabbing individual tactics from other people, throwing them together and hoping they work. you have to piece them together. You have to put them together in an intentional way. They have to be part of something else. And when you're clear, I love to think of it as this. When we think of framework, strategies, and tactics, so those are three completely different things. I use the analogy of a train or a train track. So the framework is the train tracks. The framework determines where you are going. The strategy is the actual type of train or engine that you put on those tracks. So depending on your business, depending on your organization, that train may be a passenger train. That train may be a locomotive that pulls heavy cargo. That may be a steam engine. It may be a snowplow. Like, it could be a million different things. And then the tactics are the way that you actually operate that particular engine. And what so many people are doing, so many entrepreneurs, business owners, marketers are doing, is they are complaining about the way that the train's being operated and the results that it's producing. When the problem is they've got their tracks pointed in completely the wrong direction, right? Their frameworks are completely wrong. And the reason their frameworks are wrong is because all they've done is start grabbing, like we talked about, grabbing from other places and throwing it on the track instead of being very intentional up front. And last super quick thought on this is this, that the best place to start with determining what your framework should be, where you're going to aim your marketing tracks, is a thorough understanding of the people that you're going to serve with your product or service. So the end customer, you've got to thoroughly understand them. And I'm not talking about just saying, yeah, I understand my customers. You've got to do a deep dive into understanding them.
Okay, great. Yeah, and about that, I mean, sometimes, how do you do social media marketing with getting more than just likes, shares, and comments?
Yeah, again, it ties back into an overarching strategy, number one. Number two is and I talked about this at the very beginning of the conversation, you have to hold every single dollar accountable. So if you're just throwing money out there on social media, name the platform, they're really good at providing what I would call vanity metrics. So they're going to tell you the number of likes, the number of shares, the number of comments, all of these things that in and of themselves are meaningless, right? It doesn't matter if your post reached 1 million people and had 2 million impressions. Like, it doesn't matter. None of that matters. What matters are the objectives that you are specifically after in your business or organization. So for most, that's going to be dollars in the bank account, right? Profitable dollars going into the bank account. And it's off of that metric that we must then go backwards and build out our campaigns. So I'll give you just a super quick framework on how to make your social media marketing way more effective. It's this. In social media, you need 4 different campaigns. You need campaigns that get people out there to know about you. You then need campaigns, so that's campaign number 1. They're knowing campaigns. That's it. Their only intention is to get people who don't know about your business, your organization, your products to know about you. Number 2, you need liking campaigns. So the people who now know about you, what campaigns can you run to get them to begin liking what it is that you stand for, what it is that your products or services do? And then the next campaign is trust. You need intentional campaigns around trust. And when I say that, people don't sometimes know what that means, but let me tell you this, that we live in a very cynical, very skeptical world. And people out there would rather trust strangers they've never met than to trust you or I as business owners or marketers. You think about it. You or I or anyone watching or listening, they're not going to go on Amazon and order let's say, tube of toothpaste without scrolling down and looking at the reviews on that, right? So they're trusting people they've never met who could, all we know, all be crazy people, but they're trusting their opinions about this tube of toothpaste that you're going to stick in your mouth and brush your teeth with. And so when it comes to building trust, it's very important that we always remind ourselves that other people's word about our product or about our service is far more valuable than our own words about our product or service. So campaign number 1 is knowing. Campaign number 2 is getting them to like you, building the likability. 3 is all about trust, because where trust goes, money's going to flow. Where trust goes, money flows. And then the last campaign is the campaign where you run this to existing customers to build loyalty, to build engagement, to build what we would call evangelists, to convert them into evangelists for your product or service.
Okay, great. Do you think leadership is something that you can lean into, or just something like you have it or you don't?
If you'd asked me that question a few years ago, I probably would have said you either have it or you don't. But I believe now that it can be learned. It's a learned trait and a learned skill. And what I've learned over the years is that leadership, I believe, starts with the person in the mirror. In other words, the most difficult person that you or I are ever going to have to lead is the person that looks back at us in the mirror every time we look in the mirror. And what I believe is that if we want to become better leaders of those around us and have more influence on those around us, the first place we have to start is learning to have more influence over our own selves. In other words, being able to be true to ourselves with our word. So when we give our word to ourselves, we learn to keep our word with ourselves. Whenever we make promises to ourselves, we learn to keep the promises to ourselves. I think it was Jim Rohn who used to say, you should work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And I believe that that is kind of at the core level of where great leadership begins. It's when we truly internalize the fact that we've got to work on ourselves as much, if not more, than we quote unquote work on leading those around us.
Okay, great. So tell people how they can get in touch with you to work with you.
Sure. The simplest place is on our website, and that's just uglymugmarketing.com. All of our contact info is there on the site.
Okay, sweet. Do you have anything else that you want to mention?
The last thing I would say is just that, in the world that we live in, there's a million things vying for our attention, whether that's personal or whether that's business. There's just always something else vying for our attention. And what I would encourage people to do is to identify the core few, whatever those things may be. So in your business, what are the core critical drivers of your business? In other words, what are the points of leverage in your business? And the same thing in your personal life. What are the things that are really making the biggest impact? And then be consistent in those areas. In other words, put your blinders on, just like you're a racehorse, put the blinders on, stay focused on those things. And over time, this is what I believe to be true. Consistency creates miracles.
Okay, awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time, and obviously all the links are going to be in the description. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.